Welcome to a special international weekend episode of the Championship Lowdown. I'm Elliott. This is Lewis. Returning, I believe.
Returned after a good couple of years. God knows when I was last here. I had my first pod last week, but yeah, back on the regular grind now. And what a better time during the international break to, I'd say, boil piss with some controversial picks.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a good way of putting it. Just like to put it out there, we're not just doing this for clicks, but there's a reason you've clicked on this video, and it's because of that headline. So we've got a lot of teams to get through, and not a lot of time to do it in. So we'll go straight into it. We're going to go alphabetical order. The most overrated player at my beloved Birmingham City. Who have you gone with, Lewis?
I think rather controversially. Just like you said before, I'm not going for these options just to sort of raise eyebrows or something. Well, maybe some of them, but most of them not. I generally think this lad is a bit overrated, and that is Demarai Gray. I think when it comes to attacking / wide options, you've got a better option in Keshi Anderson. He's not at the level that we saw at Leicester City. He's got a tendency to disappear in games. He's been unable to turn things around when Birmingham have needed someone the most. And I'll be honest, I'm not counting that draw against Sheffield Wednesday. That does not count as him, turning into a hero. There's plenty that we've just yet to see from him. And considering the name, the stature that he brings, considering the Premier League experience he has as well, I think we've seen very little of it so far.
I think it's a respectable choice. I do think he has actually been one of our better players in build-up. The issue he's had and has had realistically through a lot of his career, he struggles to turn that into chances and shots. He's probably been one of our better players, but he's also been one of the only guys who's played every minute. He's overrated in the sense that he doesn't look like a Premier League player in the Championship. He looks like a top-end Championship player in my eyes, which... Yeah, I to be honest, I kind of thought he was going to be worse than he was coming from Saudi. I think I've actually been quite impressed. I've been impressed with his work rate, actually, more than anything, that he works his proverbial nards off. I really thought everyone I speak to says Jay Stansfield, and I really thought that was going to be the answer. I think within the club, within Blues fans, I think Jay Stansfield might be just a little bit overrated. He's not as good on the ball as you would hope for a player of his stature, but he's so good off the ball. The player I eventually landed on as being overrated outside of the club is Brighter Samuel, who so far has been really underwhelming, and given the sort of what I was expecting from him and what I'd heard about him and what I'd seen from him. So far, he's been worse than Ethan Laird, he was supposed to be like a big upgrade on Ethan Laird. And so far, he's looked like the worst player. So that was the one I eventually landed on. I think Demarai Gray, I can completely understand how you get to that position. I'm not sure I'd say Keshi Anderson is better, as much as I love Keshi Anderson.
That's fair enough. One of the things with Bright Samuel, is it just a lack of attacking impact? Is he just a bit... I don't know. Has he just got a tendency to be a bit leaky at the back? What do you think?
It's a bit of both. He hasn't. He sort of early on he looked like he was going to be the more defensively solid version of Laird, which was not quite what I was expecting. But also, I think I was expecting a fly. Like he used to be a winger. I was expecting him to fly down the flanks and really be that right winger that Ethan Laird is for us in possession. But he just hasn't been at all. So far, I mean, it's very early days. He's just got an injury as well, so we will see. But
yeah, it does feel like one of those players where you do see them for a good few games at the start of the season. You're still actually working out what they're... I don't know what exactly they bring to the team. Looking at his past few appearances against Coventry, definitely struggled.
We got monstered by Coventry.
Yeah, against Sheffield Wednesday as well, making very minimal impact as well. That's the last thing that you need at Birmingham City, where there's just such high expectations as well.
Yeah, which is not something I'm used to, certainly, as a Birmingham. I've watched us be absolutely awful for a long, long time. We will move on to Bristol City, and I'm going to be completely honest. I was stumped with Bristol City. every player I looked at, I was like, "Are you overrated?" And I looked into it, I was like, "No, you're kind of just good. Like all of their good players are actually just kind of really quite good."
You look at Bristol City, you just think, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
No controversial opinions whatsoever. Yeah.
So
They'll still be in the Championship next season, but yeah, they'll do okay this season.
I did what any intelligent football fan does, and I asked AI. Actually, I didn't ask AI. I Googled it and found a Football League World article that had already asked AI, and that came up with Rob Dickey, which I also think is completely unfair, but I don't have a better answer. So,
ooh, is that your go-to? Is it Rob Dickey?
well, that was what ChatGPT said. I think the player I looked at was Sinclair Armstrong, who I don't think is very good, but I'm not sure anyone rates him. Which was kind of the issue I had with Bristol City. Is like anyone who's actually decent, everyone kind of knows already, and everyone who isn't that good on that team, nobody cares.
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like I'm sort of going down a similar road with you in terms of Bristol City attackers, because I've went for Emile Rees myself. In my honest opinion, not good enough to lead the line for a team which, after finishing the playoffs last season, clearly they want to build on that and try and get another playoff finish. And I feel like he's just not the person to lead the line for a side that is trying to reach the playoffs. He's had a decent start to the season with 4 goals in 9, but I feel like his overall record in the Championship, it's not much to sort of be shouting from top of the hills about. I think it is one of the weak points at Bristol City, in my opinion.
I sort of looked at him and was like, he's all right. Like but then the only person I know who even talks about Emile Rees was fellow Championship Lowdown host Ollie, who said that guy doesn't score any goals. So I just kind of assumed everyone thought he was rubbish, because that was just the only person I've ever heard to have an opinion on him. So I considered him and was like, but yeah, I'm more than willing to have Emile Rees. I believe next team
Blackburn.
Blackburn. I think
you might have missed him out.
I might have missed out Blackburn, so I'll let you lead for a second while I figure out what I was supposed to. I'm sure I looked at them.
No, it's all good, pals. I think with Blackburn, again, similar to Bristol City, it's one of them where there's no obvious contender, I feel like, in terms of just a standout overrated player. For me, I've gone for former Hull City centre-back, Sean McLaughlin. And we all know that Blackburn had a bit of a fire sale in terms of defenders this summer. And if we're being honest, he's not been the best of replacements. To go from Domham to McLaughlin is just... it's just a serious downgrade, and that's reflected in results, in my opinion. I assumed he'd be a backup for Blackburn, to be honest, when I saw the options that they had coming at the end of last season. They obviously had not bad options at centre-back, but after the fire sale, he's obviously been chucked into the deep end. He's been starting games. He wasn't even good enough to start for Hull, and they finished 21st last season. So I think if that's that's basically what tells you about the current shape of the Blackburn team, in my opinion. It's just not great.
Yeah, I think I looked at it and was like, there's so many names there. I'm like, I don't think you're quite good enough for mid-table championship, and that's worrying. When obviously you're trying to stay up, you don't necessarily need players who are good enough to stay up, but you need some who are a little bit better than that. And I don't really think they have that, and that's why I'm kind of tempted to say Todd Cantwell, because I just don't actually think he's that good. And I think he's supposed to be the standout player on this team. And I think he's actually just kind of symptomatic of their level, rather than... I don't think he elevates them in the way he's supposed to.
It depends what you mean by elevates them, because I feel like he is elevating them from 21st. They're at 21st right now. They would be rock bottom. They'd be with Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United if it didn't have Todd Cantwell. So I feel like he is elevating them. The past couple of games, he's been, on form as well. I think, in spite of results, he has shown his quality, and it could be so much worse for Blackburn if it didn't have him.
He does have quality. I just think he flatters to deceive a little bit. Every time I watch him, I'm kind of I want him to grab a game by the scruff of the neck and really go for it. And I'm like, have you really done that? Like, there's a nice turn in there. He wins a lot of free kicks, and I'm like, that's great, but I don't know. I always find myself wanting a little bit more of a Campbell. Although I do think I'm being a little bit harsh because
I
he's
mean,
surrounded by some
someone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Like, who else? Like Taylor Garden-Hickman. He's not overrated because he's a utility man. Do you know what I mean? Like, who else are you going to pick? Like, it's difficult to pick Blackburn players who are overrated. I like your suggestion.
Yeah,
but
I think it's very difficult because I feel like Todd Cantwell is the only player at Blackburn who actually is rated full stop. So, if you're going strictly by the rules, he has to be your answer.
Yeah, I quite like your answer of the former Hull centre back, because if you're not good enough to start for Hull, and I've seen you guys defend, then that's not pretty. Another very, very difficult one to pick a player from was Coventry, for completely different reasons. Coventry are absolutely flying, like something like the best goal difference or most goals scored in the EFL, I think. Seems like it. Even if that's not true, it sounds true because they've scored an absolute ton. Did you manage to find a Coventry player who fits this bill?
Right, I need to look down the camera when I say this. First of all, I feel like I need to issue some sort of public apology for what I'm about to say. I think it's a bit of a ludicrous shout, but just stay with us on this.
Oh, God,
I'm gonna go Haji Wright.
Yeah, that's what I figured you were gonna say.
So listen, I'll be honest, I'm still yet to be convinced. His goals this season came against Derby, QPR in the 7-1 slaughter, Oxford, Norwich, Millwall, and Sheffield Wednesday. He's been unable to score against Leicester, Hull, and Birmingham. And I feel like we need to see him do it in the top games. In my honest opinion, Coventry City are yet to be significantly tested by a top side. And I feel like that is where Haji Wright's quality will truly show. It was when he first came into Coventry, I'm pretty sure Coventry fans absolutely hated him because he couldn't hit a barn door at times. And that inconsistency, it does creep up at times, I feel like. Well, it has been a good start to the season so far. I don't know. I think anyone could. I think I could bang 20 goals at the foot of this free scoring Coventry side, to be honest.
Are they not free scoring because they have Haji Wright? But
I think it's to do with the creative players, in my opinion. I don't think Haji Wright is, as would say, a top level championship. He's a very good championship forward, but I want to see him do it and deliver against the top sides.
I don't condone this message. So I looked at a lot of stats today to see if I had some sort of basis for my inklings. I've just looked up at Haji Wright's, and if you want a couple of stats that maybe suggest you're onto something, he makes less than 8 passes a game, which is quite something, and doesn't really create anything. He doesn't take many touches. And he doesn't really win. They didn't really press all that well, but then they seem to have the ball most of the time. They give the ball away by like putting it in the net and the opposition having a kickoff. But then you look at like his shooting and goals, and it's like, yeah, I'm not willing to say he's overrated. I put Sakamoto for this because he's like the one of the front 4 or so, like who doesn't really score and create that much. But even that feels. So, like, you watch him play and it's like, oh, yeah, no, he is a wonderful footballer to watch. The Coventry are very, very good.
Yeah. I mean, every player's been shining for them, to be honest. But I feel like just the concept of overrated, I feel like you have to sort of look at the players who have maybe bolstered the stats or whatever with, scoring goals. And you might say Haji Wright's job is just to score goals and that's it. And that's fair enough. But I don't know. I think...
It is a lot of goals.
It's so difficult with Coventry to find an overrated player because they have been phenomenal.
And he is the top scorer in the division, I think.
Yeah, I guess. But...
I considered Rushworth the keeper as well, just because like he's on the best team in the league. I don't think he's the best keeper in the league, and he might sort of get that sort of credit. But again, that feels like he's still doing fine. They're not conceding many goals. Like they're just the best team in the division.
Yeah, it does feel very harsh. Right?
Yeah, anything you pick is up for debate here because what are you going to do? A Derby up next, I believe. Is it Derby Or Charlton?
Charlton.
Charlton up next. I should have done my alphabet. Who have you got for Charlton? I think we spoke off air and you said you were struggling a little bit with this one.
Charlton, I think Charlton definitely was a struggle. In terms of them, I've went for Charlie Kelman. I'm only going to say I'm not necessarily overrated by the fans, by the supporters, or anything like that. I'm just going to say overrated by Nathan Jones. He's yet to score while Isaac Olafe showed far more promise when coming off the bench. And Kelman himself, he's averaging about 53 minutes per game, which shows his impact so minimal that Nathan Jones can't get anything better than to hook him after, a few minutes into the second half.
I don't even think he was that good in League One, to be honest, Kelman.
Exactly. It's surprising. When I saw that Olafe had signed, I thought he's going to be leading the line. And he's been scoring the goals as well. Did he come off the bench against Sheffield United? And scored? He might have done.
So.
So he's shown his quality already, but I just don't know what more he can do to get ahead of Kelman in the starting 11. And it feels like Nathan Jones is the only person who wants to persist with him at this moment.
I did. Kelman was second on my choice. I was choosing between two just before, and I'm going to go with the keeper, Kaminski. I think a lot of people think Kaminski is really, really good, and then I watch him and I'm like, he doesn't command his box very well, and he makes some flashy saves, but I also think some shots seem to go through him that just shouldn't. And I think I was scarred for a long time because there was one game he played against us where he was out of this world, and I was convinced this guy was amazing. But then ever since, at Luton, I don't think he was particularly good at all. And he started this season. I mean, obviously Charlton don't really concede any shots, so it's kind of hard to rate him off this season because Charlton have been very, very good defensively. But I actually think at Luton he was surprisingly poor and in a poor side. But that's usually when keepers look at their best, is in poor sides. And I think I'm quite comfortable with my choice of Kaminski. I mean, again, it was another one where I sort of looked at numbers and was like, he doesn't save over average like I thought he would. I thought he'd be an excellent shot stopper, and he's kind of not. He's I think he's a better passer on some of the numbers than I thought. But I was like, are we really that bothered about that? I think Charlton are quite direct from what I remember. So I wasn't. Yeah, I think Kaminski is one of those who sort of has been rated for a while by the wider public because he has those magic games, but a lot of the time he's kind of just below average.
I mean, of course, Charlton have conceded only 8 this season, so would you suggest maybe a bit deceiving? That's more of a I think that's doing the job as opposed to the goalkeeper.
I think that's a sign of how solid Charlton are, as more than it is Kaminski. I think Charlton are very impressive. I actually tipped them before the season to be much better than Wrexham. I'm quite feeling very smug about that because they've looked very, very good. But that's why it was difficult to find one. You had to either go Kelman or Kaminski, I think, because Kelman, I don't really want to talk about it. I didn't think he was that good last season and don't know why he's in the Championship. I think QPR got a fortune for him. So now I think we move on to Derby, if I do know my ABCDs.
I think we might be in agreement with this one. I'll let you go first, but I think we might be in agreement.
I went with a guy who I quite simply just don't like, which is Andreas Weimann. I think he works very hard. He's quite quick, but technically, I just think he's poor. And maybe that's harsh, but he's just not a. He makes up for his failings on the ball with work rate and speed and all of that. But I don't like him because he played for Villa, but I don't like watching him play either. I find watching him play to be a chore, and I don't think he's quite as effective as I would hope for somebody who I don't enjoy watching, especially in recent seasons. He had a couple of seasons where he was genuinely quite good, which was worrying, but I think he's actually reverted back to type and he's kind of a bit rubbish now.
It seems to just sort of be hanging on to any sort of championship football that he can cling on to be honest. I feel like I thought you would have went for mine, to be honest. So for Derby County, I went for Ben Brereton Diaz. who
I've just got a soft spot for him. I think he's probably rubbish, but I just quite like him.
your bias is coming into play. That's what it is.
Yeah, I won't lie. Yeah.
So, but with like Burton Diaz, his drop off has just been massive. I think, to be honest, it was expected that he'd be able to light the Championship on fire. We obviously saw that at Blackburn a couple of seasons ago now, but he's just been very limited so far. He's been isolated for Derby. I don't think Eustace knows how to get the very best out of him. I don't think even he knows how to get the very best out of himself, to be honest, the way he plays. He's just lapsed in confidence. He's a completely different player to what we used to see. I feel like he's gone under what I would like to say is a bit of just from that Southampton side last season in the Prem, loads of players have had a bit of a hangover from that season, whether they've stayed at Southampton or if they've moved on. And I feel like he is just one of them. He's just not kicked on whatsoever. I was stunned when he joined Derby. I was like, oh, they're actually building whisper it quietly, but they're building quite a decent team here.
Whisper it really quietly.
Silently, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just been, I don't know, it's just been a bit, I don't want to say pointless because that sounds really harsh. But he's been just overrated. That's the word. He's been overrated.
Yeah, I just looked at quite how poor he'd been in the numbers, and it doesn't make for good reading. I just say there is a player in there somewhere. It's just been lost for a good few years now. I think he was all right at Sheffield United, and I mean all right, but yeah, he's not been good. And I think if I was being a little bit less biased, he probably would have been the choice. Let's move on. I believe it's Hull next. Yeah. I have written in my notes Ollie McBurney, but that's just because he's massively overperforming his expected goals at the moment, to the point where it's like, unless he's Lionel Messi, he is gonna tail off. He's not gonna keep scoring at this rate, and for that reason, I had him. But then I actually looked back at his numbers in like previous years. He was terrible in La Liga. Don't even look at that season. It was really bad. But like even in the Premier League, he was actually like getting shots off and getting into good positions, and he is just a physical mismatch. But I just think he's not going to keep scoring at this rate. That this is getting silly.
It's one of them with McBurney. I think despite him having an incredible start to the season, he's been phenomenal. He's been Hull's best attacker since Abel Hernandez since 2017. But I don't think people are going around and saying that he is, top 3 strikers in the Championship. As a Hull fan, I'm not saying that. So do you think even if he did tail off a bit, that all of a sudden that's overrated? And it's a bit of a tricky one. But
it is tricky because my sort of you and Ollie are the only Hull fans I know, and I know Ollie's like in love with him. And like there was definitely a time where McBurney was considered like a really hot prospect. Didn't he go to? Is it Swansea? He went for loads and loads of money. It was like a big chunk of money.
Swansea to Sheffield United. I think that was a sizable 17 mil or something like that. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a bunch of money. And I think there's still that sort of in the Championship. There's still that he still has that pedigree, that sort of name factor, because he had that season with Swansea where he scored lots of goals. So I think there is still a fear factor about him. I just think it's a little much. Maybe I disregard. I considered putting Charlie Hughes just because of the amount of money that Cov wanted to sign him for, and then like I looked at some of like Hull's defending and was like, he is the only one trying to defend. In his defense, he's the only one trying to defend.
Yeah, he has been just phenomenal, to be honest. I think he's definitely worthy of the price tag that Hull put on him. In terms of my option, I had to put my teeth into this one. Hazemetovic, midfielder. I feel like many Hull fans have been impressed with him so far, but I'm less convinced when it comes to him. He's decent at keeping possession, playing simple sideways passes, but he made a catastrophic error against Sheffield United, which should have led to a goal for Sheffield United when remembered. it's Sheffield United. They're not going to score it, so we're okay. But there's just not much progressive play when it comes to him. He's just just knocking it sideways. I've just not convinced by him at the minute. There's like players at Hull, such as like Regan Slater, for example, who comes under a lot of scrutiny because he's, maybe not the most technically gifted, but he does run around a lot. He's a hard worker, and I feel like I'm in the minority when I would say I would rather Regan Slater in the centre of the park than Hadzimitovic.
Is that just because it's easier to say?
Yeah.
I can't say I've watched enough of Hull to have a real definitive opinion on Regan Slater versus the long name. Hadzimitovic. Something like that. I can't say I have a definitive opinion. I don't watch enough of you to know. So I think we play you in a couple of weeks. So I'll tell you after that.
Oh, yeah. That's straight after the national break, isn't it?
Yeah. I hate the international break.
We'll both look forward to that, don't we?
We will move on to, I believe it's Ipswich next. That's what I've got in my notes. Another one I found quite difficult because everyone I clicked on, I was like, oh, actually, this guy's pretty good. But I'm going to base this off what I've seen so far this season. And I'm going to say Sammy Schmodix. Because this season, I think he has not been good at all. He was invisible against us and other games I've watched Ipswich play. It's like you see everyone else when that attack's purring. Even when that attack has been purring, it has been not through him at all. And I think they've sort of looked better when they've had like Akpom behind the striker. Or I like Schmodix, and he obviously has. He's obviously a good player, but right now he is not. I don't think he makes Ipswich's like best starting 11 at the moment.
I mean, I've went for another forward as well. I've went for Chuba Akpom.
It's reasonable.
And I think the reason why this is like everything's been blown up proportion with him is that transfer fiasco this summer. It just took centre stage, and it was just. It was just like absolutely incredible. Everyone was going after him. I think Middlesbrough and Ipswich, and he's going to go Middlesbrough again. Then he's back.
He was going to go to us as well.
And then Birmingham came in out of nowhere. It was just absolutely mad. All of this tug of war for a player who has joined Ipswich, and he's just been a bit meh, to be honest. He's not done loads. He's done very little, if we're being honest. And I think based on Middlesbrough, Ipswich, and Blues going after him, you would think that he'd be able to transform Ipswich's attacking output, but that's been Philogene instead, filling them shoes. And you could say Akpom's not had that much game time so far, but when he has been on the pitch, it's just been a bit minimal, to be honest.
I was not that bothered about assigning him. I think I was in the minority where everyone was very excited. I was like, I don't know, there's something about him I just didn't quite click with me. And now I'm looking at our attack and going, actually, we could probably do with him, but I don't know. I think he's a strange player in that I think he's quite a specific profile. Like he's a box crashing 10 who wants to score. Like he's a striker playing at the 10. He's not a sort of classic number 10, which actually is very similar to what we do, but it means you have to have playmakers either out wide or behind him who are sort of fulfill that role as the sort of passer in the front four. And I think, like you say, like that makes him. He's difficult to fit into a team, and obviously, like Philogene has been so good that it's kind of hard to. Every other attacker's looked worse on Ipswich because Philogene's been so good. So there is that side of it. I don't hate the Akpom shout, and not just because I'm bitter. Next up is another relegated team, Leicester. I'm very interested to see who you picked for Leicester.
Okay, so for Leicester, I don't think too controversial. Well, maybe a little bit. I don't know, but Harry Winks.
Oh yeah. I forgot. I even forgot Harry Winks. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Not too late to change your option. Don't worry.
There's a worse player on Leicester.
Oh, okay. Well, with Harry Winks, I think it's just for someone with so much, Premier League pedigree. He's got 150 appearances in the top flight. You would expect far more from him. He's a player in his prime years as well. Is he like 29, 30, 31, something like that? He's just
something like that.
he's nowhere near the player what you'd expect, because he came in as one of the blockbuster signings at the start of their Premier League season under Steve Cooper. He was fairly average, if not below average, like every Leicester player was last season. And he's just not managed to pick it up at Championship level. He's just been a bit sluggish. He doesn't really get involved with much progressive play. Similar to Hadzimetovic at Hull. He just passed it sideways, not creating too much. And I feel like it just sums Leicester up occasionally. We just need a moment of brilliance, and it never comes from him.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think I've thought Harry Winks was nowhere near. I didn't really think he was a Premier League footballer. Certainly not for the amount of money they spent on him. He's like he's like a decent Championship player. I don't think he's any more than that. And they spent a fortune on him. I considered putting Fatawu in here, and then I actually looked at his previous seasons and was like, because Fatawu is so good, but like sometimes I'm like, you are so good, but then what do you actually do with it? Well, I looked at his previous seasons and I was like, oh no, this is because Leicester are a bit stodgy at the moment. This is not helping him. So I went with the obvious answer of Wout Faes, who I think is absolutely garbage. And so again, if the fact that he has played Premier League football and is still playing Championship football, I find to be, in some ways it's inspiring, because if he can play Championship football, then it's okay.
Why can't we?
I don't know if I'm missing something with him. Every single time I've watched him play, he has been dreadful.
He
must be good when I'm not watching. Yeah,
he's just so calamitous. He's just like, the fact that he was consistently, I don't know if he is still now, I'd be stunned if he still is, but he was consistently getting called up to Belgium as well.
Yeah.
I don't understand where it came from. He as a youngster, he had like quite a high ceiling, I'm pretty sure. He arrived like to Leicester with plenty of promise. And then, if we're being honest, showed his true colours as being a bit awful. Yeah. He's still getting plenty of opportunities. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like, inside of football, he clearly is rated by someone, and I'm not really sure why. Yeah, quite simply, Wout Faes, I do not understand why he's at Leicester. Let's go on to Borough. This was one as well I didn't enjoy finding one for. I came up with a couple of names, and I'm not confident with either.
I think I definitely struggled with this one, but I could only really land on one name, to be honest. What have you went for?
Either Morgan Whittaker, who, because he like looked so good at Plymouth and has been kind of mediocre since. Or Sfera Nipan, purely because he comes with such insane hype, and he's like he's clearly good, but is he like? I don't think he's Man City. Like, they haven't signed the player everyone knows from Football Manager just yet. Like that. That's sort of, like, he comes with that hype, and it's like, okay, he's good. Is he that good?
It's one of them where, like, I know where you're coming from with Nipan, because he's got the Man City following. There's just so much around him where you're expecting someone to light the Championship on fire. But with Whittaker, I don't think I think you'd struggle to find a handful of Middlesbrough fans who do actually rate him. I know what you mean in terms of the Plymouth where he was really good, but I feel like he's shown so little in his spell there so far that I feel like the tide's already turned against him. If anything, he could put in a half decent performance and he could be regarded as underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I bet there's probably plenty of people outside of Middlesbrough who still rate him, who haven't really kept up with him. Like, if he was transfer listed now, there would be like I'd say like 8 Championship teams who would sign him.
Oh yeah, he could easily join another mid-table. I don't mean another, because Middlesbrough's been. But like obviously like a mid-table Championship club could easily swoop in from Whittaker, and I don't think Middlesbrough would have to cut their losses too much with him, because he definitely does have that potential. It's just
he did look so good at Plymouth. I don't know quite how he's become so.
He just looks very ineffective. He just looks very like one-dimensional on the ball. He just doesn't really do much with it, to be honest. And that was like the polar opposite of what we saw at Plymouth.
Yeah, so I again, it's a difficult. Borough was a difficult one, so I don't think there's many Borough fans who rate Whittaker, but there will be people who would want him at their club if he was available. So I went with that.
Yeah,
What did you go with?
I was thinking also between Naipan and Alfie Jones. Again, it's another player I've got more of a history with. Your former Hull centre half. He's for no massive reason, to be honest, because I think generally Middlesbrough have exceeded everyone's expectations. So it's difficult to think of a single player who hasn't quite lived up to what everyone's saying. So I feel like I've gone Alfie Jones. I think Naipan definitely does fit the bill a little bit more, just because of the reputation that he carries, and he's not been bad so far. He's been a decent player to bring off the bench for Rob Edwards, but
he is good.
Yeah,
he is good, but like when they signed him, it was full of comments like, "Oh, how on earth have Borough pulled this off? Like he shouldn't be in the Championship." And it's like, actually, he kind of looks like he should be in the Championship. It kind of looks like the right level for him.
Yeah, he'll definitely show a bit more because he is young. Is he like 19 years old, 18, 19 years old?
Oh yeah, he's super young, and I'm sure he will be an excellent player. It's just right now he's a little bit overrated. Millwall, who have you got for Millwall? Because this was one where I was looking through it, I was like, players rated by Millwall fans, but outside of Millwall, how rated are some of these players?
Yeah, I've went more of a player who's sort of gone a relatively known top level or seemingly top level player who's gone under the radar of being absolute tosh, in my opinion, and that is Will Smallbone. He's been thrown into games recently. He's shown very little promise, to be honest, in the small amount of game time that he's had. Similar to Ben Brereton Diaz, I'm going back to the Southampton hangover. Yeah. It's no different with him. He's just not being able to recover from that whatsoever. You'd think, because the last time he was in the Championship with Southampton, he was very good in centre of the park, and he actually had goals. He had goals to show for it as well. He was actually banging them in, but he's not really getting an opportunity at Millwall, and I think that reflects on the fact that his abilities just have gone down the pan a little bit. I've just not really seen anything at all from him, considering he is what we'd call a decent level Championship player.
I think the Southampton fans were very, very happy for him to leave, which is never a good sign when you're signing a player. Or rarely a good sign, I would say. There are times when you get a good deal out of it. I went with Josh Coburn purely because of the fee they paid for him. And he's just a little agricultural. Like, he's a decent player, but he's very on brand for Millwall, for like an old school Millwall. And I just think he doesn't quite have the guile to go up a level. I think he is what he is. I don't think he'll ever be better than that. And they paid for a player who could and maybe should be better in the future. I don't think they're getting that currently, and I don't think they're going to get it. So I went with Josh Coburn. I also have written down, was it Tieno Ballo, just because I didn't think he was, again, like, I didn't really get it, but it's only a loan deal, and he's not been in English football long enough to really make that, so I went with Coburn instead.
With Coburn, I've just went onto his SofaScore profile. I feel like you might have written it, because under strengths it says no strengths.
I don't think he's that bad
as well. Yeah,
he has strengths. It's just there. He's big, he's powerful, he's good with his back to goal, but it's with his front to goal as well.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Oh yeah, definitely.
Norwich. I said off air I found this one quite difficult. You were quickly like, oh no, I had a good answer for this, so I'm interested who you've got.
Again, I think this one needs to be tagged with an apology as well. I've gone for Josh Sargent.
I considered Josh Sargent, and then I went, no, I just don't believe this. Like, I would only be doing this.
I genuinely do believe this. I think he is probably the most overrated Norwich City player, because if we're actually thinking about it in terms of the player he is, he's easily rated as a 20 mil plus player, arguably even 30. Not many. 30 might be a little bit too much, but if Norwich sold him for 25 to a Premier League or a Bundesliga side in the summer, I don't think anyone would be absolutely stunned. I feel like that would just be business as usual. A player's done well in the Championship and then moving on. But he's not continued that this season. He's yet to score in his previous 5 games, and that's been almost crucial to Norwich's downfall, I feel like. With a player with so much quality, he has to deliver, and he simply hasn't done that against high level opposition.
I considered it for the same reasons as you, as that fee was crazy, but then I was like, well, they didn't actually pay that. so clearly the German teams also didn't rate him that highly.
Yeah.
He
should be overrated by Norwich then.
Yeah, but then they want to keep him. I don't know. He's a good goal scorer. He's good in build up. Like I understand why, because I had that same inkling. It's like I kind of want to put Sargent because of that fee, but I was like, I can't. Like he's just a good footballer. He's just a good footballer. I say after that I was kind of not out of ideas. I was like, I've got to really sort of rack my brain. I went with Jose Cordova at the back. I don't know. That guy has a mistake in him. He doesn't win loads in the air. And it's like, you look at like Norwich's numbers, the numbers this season are horrible, especially defensively. And it's like, it's got to be a defender because they can't defend. He just doesn't win the ball in the air, which is just not good for a championship setup. The ball is in the air a lot in the championship. You've got to be dominant in the air. And if you're not, you better be exceptional, and he isn't exceptional. So I went with him, but I am also aware that he's not that highly rated, so it's kind of a bit of a cop-out.
When it comes to Norwich defence, he's one of a bad bunch, really, isn't he? I don't think anyone's really... No one's really stole the show in terms of the Norwich defence. We conceded 14 as well. It's not...
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's got to be a defender. They can't all be good players.
The fact that they've only conceded 2 fewer than Sheffield United, probably the worst Sheffield United team in recent history, says a lot negatively about this Norwich side at the minute. So which is
why I don't want to go after Josh Sargent when his defence are doing this. I don't want to go after the guy. He's the only reason they're not bottom of the table. We will move on to Oxford. This one is difficult in the sense that Oxford fly under the radar a lot, but they do have some players that people know, and they do have. I think people are starting to listen when it comes to Oxford. I'm interested who you picked for Oxford United. I should say Oxford United instead of Oxford.
Yeah, it was a difficult one with Oxford. There wasn't really an obvious shout, because like you say, you've got teams like Blackburn where you were thinking Todd Cantwell because he's been like the only player worth his salt, but again, he's not done as much as you expected. But there hasn't really been an obvious contender as a standout player for Oxford. So I've basically went for Siriki Dembele, which again, it's a difficult call, but I think he's had a poor start to the season. He's shown previous quality in the Championship, but this campaign he's just done nothing of note, to be honest. And understandably, his impact's been a bit limited because he's just been coming off the bench. But in that time that he's had, I think he's had like 315 Championship minutes, and he's still been very little. When it comes to Siriki Dembele, you think about that time he had at Peterborough in League One. Mind you, that was 4, 5, 6 years ago now. And he wasn't too bad at Birmingham, I believe. But
he was all right once he was on the ball.
Yeah. But I thought you'd think he'd be getting a bit more of an opportunity at Oxford. And when he was coming on the pitch, he'd actually be making things change. He should be brought on as a bit of an impact player, but it's just not been the case.
You know, you were talking about Damari Gray earlier. Oxford manager Gary Rowett is the guy who he basically made Damari Gray's career. Like we're starting him every week as a 18-year-old on the left wing, and he was really big on telling Damari Gray, look, you're great on the ball, you're fast, you dribble past players. At the time, he scored quite a lot of goals for us as well. But he said, you've got to do the other side of the game if you want to play in the Premier League. Damari Gray, to his credit, listened. He worked really, really hard without the ball. Siriki Dembele, the word lazy gets used a lot, and I think a lot of the time completely unfairly, but he genuinely is a very lazy defender. He's no interest in defending. And I think that he lost a lot of credit with Blues fans where we conceded a late winner. I can't remember if it was a game. It was away from home in the Championship where he just let his man run off him and they crossed and scored in the last minute. It was like, if you can't be bothered to track back in the last minute at 1-1, you can't be playing games for us. So I also had him on my list. I also had Tyler Goodrum because the guy just kind of does nothing. Like, he's like, oh yeah, he can play anywhere across the front four. Like, yeah, but he didn't do anything in any of them. So I was like,
yeah, but I don't really want him to, though, do I?
Yeah, that's great, but can he play anywhere on the bench? But yeah, no, I think Siriki Dembele was.
Yeah, do you think that's probably one of the main reasons that defensive side or lack of defensive side for him? Do you think that's the reason why he's not really getting a start?
I can't believe Gary Rowett plays him at all. Look, because Gary Rowett told Damari Gray, look, you've got to track back. Siriki Dembele is not as good as Damari Gray was. And yeah, I'm surprised he even gets a game. Yeah, that really surprised me, but we'll move on. I think it's Portsmouth next, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Who have you got for Portsmouth? I went through a list of names and came up with one.
So for Portsmouth, I've came up with Connor Chaplin.
I really considered that just because of the fanfare around him.
I know. I think that's sort of where you have to throw in that overrated shout with him because, in my opinion, he's just done very little. The game against Sheffield Wednesday, obviously handing Sheffield Wednesday their first win of the Championship season. I feel like any team that does that has to come under major scrutiny. And I think Chaplin was really pivotal in just not showing up on that day, unfortunately. It's difficult to find another high-profile player worthy of this accolade at Portsmouth, in my opinion. So I think, as you say, the fanfare that came with his arrival, he's just not really done much at all so far.
Yeah, it's completely fair. I went the other way. I was like, well, it's not entirely his fault because he's behind Colby Bishop, who's like, I don't know, man. He doesn't shoot. He doesn't create. He's like decent in the air, but like, what else does he do? It's not a whole lot. Honestly, the fact that Portsmouth are so good with, or like a good with him up front is quite impressive. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to go too hard on Chaplin because who's he supposed to create for?
Yeah. Who you went for?
That I went with Colby Bishop.
Oh, you went Colby Bishop.
Yeah, it's like well, I don't know what this guy's supposed to do. Whatever he's supposed to do, I don't think he does it well enough. So I went with him because
he has been pretty limited so far this season, to be honest. I mean, he's only got one goal as well, which for your starting striker, it's not exactly what you want, is it?
Yeah, even like last season, like his goals are he's got a decent amount of goals, but there's a lot of pens in there, and if people are going to hold that against Stansfield, they hold it against everyone. But which I think is right, by the way.
Okay, I was like, you definitely don't have any resentment when saying that, do you?
No. Like genuinely, I do think that is one of my criticisms of Stansfield is actually like it's like his goal numbers are massively buffed up by the fact we got a penalty every week in League One. We'll move on. Preston North End started the season very well.
Definitely.
They tailed off a little bit. Who have you gone for as their overrated player?
Again, a team that's in the grand scheme of things exceeding expectations because it only stayed up by the skin of their teeth last season. It is difficult to come up with one for Preston.
Yeah,
but I went with Osmajic, which it might be seen as a bit of a controversial choice, but he's goalless in his three previous games, and he only got 9 goals last season as well. He can chip away a few here and there, but I feel like his impact just isn't enough for a decent level Championship side. Under Paul Heckingbottom, we know he's a Championship promotion winning manager, and I feel like he needs someone just a bit more reliable in the final third. And I don't think even when he's playing at his best, I don't think he really can be that. Whereas I feel like he is sort of seen as not a top Championship forward by some, but he's seen as a very good player by some. And I just don't think he's shown much to really deserve that accolade, to be honest.
He's a pure poacher. Whenever I've seen him, like he goes quiet for like 20 minutes and then he just pops up at the back post. But I don't know, like as long as he is scoring goals, which he has relatively consistently done for Preston North End, I don't mind it too much. He was like one I looked at, but I landed on Mads Frokje Jensen. I saw Preston North End fans referring to this guy as like, oh, he's our best player, should be playing every week. It's like there's a reason he wasn't playing every week under previous managers. He is a nice footballer to watch, but he's one of those where you're like, can you do a bit more? Like, can you create more? Can you move the ball forwards a bit more? Can you just you're nice? I've seen enough of those players, though. It's like I love watching you play football, but can you hurry up? can you like create something out of nothing? Can you score a goal from nowhere? Because that's, and I know that's not entirely his job, but like when you're sort of building, you're one of their better players, one of their sort of more technically gifted players. Like I just want a little bit more out of him, so I think I went with him. But I don't feel good doing it because I do like that type of footballer. but
yeah, he does come across as a bit of a luxury player, to be honest, and not necessarily for all the positive reasons as well. I think when it comes to Heckingbottom, he does want hard-working players. He wants grafters. He wants players who will create something out of nothing. And I feel like it really is a telltale sign that he's only got 4 appearances and no starts so far this season. I think he's just not really rated at all by him, is he?
Which maybe makes it unfair for me to call him overrated, but I think their fans really like him. I do think their fans are big fans of him, but I didn't feel good picking that one, but I had to pick someone, and unfortunately, he was the scapegoat. We'll go on to QPR because we are starting to not run out of time, but it's going long. QPR, it's on a lot of players this summer, which made it a little bit difficult because they had quite a decent turnover of players. I actually went for one of the new signings. Who did you go for?
I went for Harvey Vale myself. Again, it's another one of them teams where there's no obvious contender, in my opinion. But I feel like QPR are almost embodied by inconsistencies in the last few seasons. They've either started well or they've started horrifically and I just kept swaying between the two, and it's inevitably just ended up being a mid-table / lower or higher bottom end of the table finish. And it's going to be the same again this season. I feel like they've shown a lot more compared to previous campaigns, but the inconsistencies will come back to bite them. And Harvey Vale, I feel like, just embodies that a little bit. He's not one of them players who's going to be, at the top end of the Championship. He's all right, but again, it's just not loads from him, to be honest. I think if you want to sort of make difference in the Championship, you need to aim a little bit higher with players like that. And yeah, overrated in my opinion.
Listen, there has never and there will never be a good footballer called Richard. It's Richard Kone. No, I think
harsh. I think that's harsh for me. I really rate him, which I suppose why you think he's overrated, to be honest. But
I think time will. He has started well. I have to concede that, but I think there's some. He also did this last season, and then he completely tailed off. And when you sort of, I don't know, like when you're not super dominant in League One, I know somebody's going to say, "What about Jay Stansfield?" Which is why he was, mentioned in the overrated. But when you're not super dominant in League One, I always worry about that step up to the Championship because it is a step up. Like I've just spent a season watching League One football. League One is not comparable to the Championship. And yes, Richard Kone was bigger and he was stronger and he was quicker and he was better than everyone in League One. But you're not bigger and quicker and stronger than everyone in the Championship. And I think he will quite quickly struggle to impose himself in the same way in this league. Yes, he's been good in his nearly 600 minutes, but I think he'll tail off again. And I think he is still young, which is the thing. But I think at the moment he's riding a little bit of hype that will die down. This might really backfire, but
do you think he's one of players who will sort of his ability, not ability, but his form will definitely be dictated by QPR's form as a team?
I think maybe the other way around. I think they're going to live and die by him because it's what happened last year for Wickham, wasn't it? Where like he stopped scoring and they just cratered. They went from like the second best team in the division to the finishing like I think they finished 5th in the end. And that was partially because their manager left and partially and Kone just completely went off the boil, which were linked, but like
And Mike Dodds wasn't exactly the most inspiring of appointments as well.
No, that was questionable. But look, there are caveats here, and there is definitely a world where I'm completely wrong. But I also think there's enough doubt that I'm willing to put my neck on the line, and you got to take some gambles here and there, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely been a good few gambles in this podcast already, hasn't there?
Yeah, I've got at least one coming up as well. We will go on to Sheffield United, which I think is you can pick anyone. You really there's so many choices for Sheffield United. I've got 4 listed down, which feels unfair. Feels unfair.
I think I had a similar issue, just not in terms of not being able to find one, just being able to sort of try and find the most overrated, to be honest.
Yeah,
a lot of these players have the profile, but it's just not lived up to it whatsoever. And mine, Louis Barry, which again I don't know is going to be a controversial one, but I think we've got his short spell at Hull last season as well, which further backs it up. He was hit by injuries, fair enough, but his few games he didn't really show much. And that has just carried on at Sheffield United as well. He's just been unable to adapt to the Championship. He's been unreal at League 2, League 1 with Stockport, but I don't know if it is the injuries that have derailed him a little bit. But he just doesn't really look as exciting on the ball. In League 1, you could always see him, he's going to cut onto his right foot, or it's just going to go into the top corner, but he just doesn't have that same confidence as well. And no one's performed well for Sheffield United. No one's had that confidence. But the fact that he's shown it in 2 spells at separate clubs, mind you, fairly limited spells, I still think that suggests that he is a bit overrated, to be honest. And maybe he isn't actually ready for the Championship, even though he's been lauded as the next big thing after his improvements while at Stockport.
I do think he's a Championship footballer, but I also very much considered him for overrated in the sense that he is not set the world alight. I thought he was going to be better in the Championship. I watched him at Stockport, and he was like a genuine step up. There were very few players in League 1 last season who I looked at. I was like, "Oh, you are better than this division." Poku was another one. Louis Barry was one. I mean, Kone, he probably was one, but Kelman wasn't one, which is why I wouldn't have signed him. I think Sheffield United, there's so many things going wrong, just constantly. You almost have to start with the spine of the team. So I went with Tanganga.
Ooh, okay.
Because Tanganga is I don't know anyone who didn't think he was good, like a very good Championship player. Obviously came from Spurs where he played plenty of games, and he's Sheffield United just falling apart from back to front, and he's not been solid. It's really hard to pick any player, but it's also completely fair to pick any player because every single one of them has been poor. But you'd hope somebody like him with Premier League experience would just be able to be like, look, lads, grow up. Let's stop. Let's stop whatever this is. You can pick players through midfield, you can pick players from out wide, you can pick an attacker. I think it's only fair to pick where the problems start. So I went with Tanganga.
Yeah, I think obviously both teams at the bottom of the table, but I think unlike Sheffield United, I think we're going on to Sheffield Wednesday. I feel like it's quite difficult just because you feel sorry for them. Do you know what I mean? I hate to say
I do have an answer for Sheffield Wednesday. It's not Barry Bannon. It's not Barry Bannon.
I'd be livid if it was Barry Bannon. I'd be livid.
No, as much as I dislike him, he is a lovely footballer.
He's just class. He's just class.
For Sheffield Wednesday, I went with Dominic Iorfa because we played Sheffield Wednesday the other day, and he looked like a pub footballer. And I mean, he looked like he was playing in Wellies. You press him, he kicks it anywhere, absolutely anywhere. We should have scored. We nicked the ball off him where he was just he tried to turn on the ball, and he was like, like the Titanic. I don't think anyone really rates him, but he's playing in the Championship, and that's enough for me. Like he's
yeah. I mean, he in particular had a really rough game against Coventry in the 5-0, as did everyone for Sheffield Wednesday, to be honest.
Yeah. Well,
But I'm going other end of the pitch, and I'm going to go with Jamal Lowe.
Yeah.
Because at such a difficult time for Sheffield Wednesday, they need the small crop of senior players with Championship experience to stand up and show a bit of quality. He is someone who has shown quality in the Championship, but he's just never been able to kick on at Hillsborough. And that's just been a significant hindrance to Henrik Pedersen's side, in my opinion. For a player who when he signed for Sheffield Wednesday at the start of last season, we thought this is going to be, the next big move to, consolidate in a mid-table and even potentially going for a playoff spot. He lacks goal scoring prowess, and generally just looks laboured in the attacking third as well. He doesn't look like someone with any sort of Championship experience. So the fact that he has notched however many games at this level is just absolutely stunning. I feel like you've got a caveat with every Sheffield Wednesday player.
Yeah.
But us calling them overrated probably isn't the biggest of their concerns at the minute.
Well, quite, yeah. Like,
yeah.
Us calling them overrated isn't their biggest of their concerns. Calling them overrated at all is a bit harsh because what are they supposed to do?
Exactly.
And they're all knackered as well. They don't have any subs. So
I know it's a nightmare for them. But I think with Jamal Lowe, I'm taking in last season as well as a reason why he could be argued to be overrated and not quite living up to the character or the profile that he has built himself.
That's completely fair. We'll go to a team at the complete opposite end of the financial spectrum as Championship goes with Southampton. I ummed for a bit, and then a name came to me, like it just stuck out, and I was like, okay, I've got my answer, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm very confident with mine as well, to be honest. I've went for Ryan Fraser.
Oh, I considered that.
Considering he's been one of the better players for Southampton, I think is a bit of a left field pick. But if we're being brutally honest, he just isn't the player that he once was. I think he struggled to get into any sort of goal scoring positions while playing under Will Still. He just gets almost isolated out wide. In his last 5 matches, he's only managed 1 shot. That's it. He's just not the impact player that he once was. And I think that makes him just overrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I was sort of blinded by who he was, that I was like, no, it's Ryan Fraser. Like, he was a good footballer. It's fine. I went with Tom Fellows.
Ooh, okay.
So Fellows is really enjoyable to watch. But when you actually look at his output, it really isn't, like, for the amount of money he went for and people were talking about buying him for, it's like, are you that guy? I don't think you're that guy. Like, he didn't score that many. I know that's not really his job, but like, even like creatively, I don't think he's like outstanding. He obviously has. He progresses the ball very well. He's an excellent dribbler. He's very fast. Like, he's got all these qualities, but again, it's another one. I just kind of want him to do a bit more with it. Like, there was like a rumor that we were going to try and sign him. I think that's just because he's a Birmingham City fan. And I was really excited at first. I knew the sort of reputation he came with. I've seen him play. I'm like, oh, he's so exciting. And I looked, and I was like, we don't need another winger who doesn't score. And that's kind of what Tom Fellows is. It's just a case of the amount of money he went for. I really think he's not worth it. And I think if Southampton do go up, they will want to replace him again, which makes putting 8 figures down on him look a bit silly. That's just kind of my.
And I know Southampton fans haven't been too keen on him so far. I don't think there's a single Southampton player who
they like.
I've actually enjoyed watching. But yeah,
I like Damien Downs. I don't know. I don't think he's been great so far, but I just kind of like him.
One of the bad bunch, we'll say.
Yeah, he's just a fun player to watch. Speaking of fun players to watch, my Stoke choice is Bae Jun Ho.
Ooh, interesting one.
He is an excellent footballer who has gone completely off the boil. like I thought he was a wonderful footballer, and then like the more I've watched him, the more I've been like where's that player gone? Like he was linked with a massive move away. It was like 12, 15 million or something. I think it's to Feyenoord. And I think ever since then he's not. I don't know if he had his head turned, or I don't think he's been anywhere near as good since. I think even for the Korean national team, he's been a little underwhelming. There's a Korean national team journalist I follow who's like, yeah, I don't know what's happened to him. He's not been very good for Korea.
Yeah, I think Stoke, we had a few teams like this where it's difficult to really choose one of them. And I went for Divin Mbama, which I think he is just one of the weak points in their side, to be honest. He's had 7 games running with no goals, and 6 of which he's started. He's underperformed in XG as well. He's scored only 2 goals this season when he's notched a total of 2.69 XG. I think Stoke have been really good defensively this season, which is much to Mark Robbins and Victor Johansson. But when you look at the difference, in terms of attack, I feel like Mbama just isn't hitting the heights of what is needed for a team which, I'll be honest, have the foundations to, record a pretty decent championship season. They've had a decent start, obviously, barring the last couple of draws that they've had. And yeah, he just isn't the answer to any sort of goal scoring issues that they might have.
Yeah, I think when you break it down like that, it's like, okay, yeah, I've just looked at some of his numbers. I'm like, it's not that impressive. But when I watched him, we've played them this season, I thought he was a real handful. It's one of those where I was like, oh, actually, no, I see his value even when he's not doing something. He also nearly scored a beautiful back heel against us, but it took a great save. But I definitely see where you're coming from with Mbama. I think he will eventually be a very good championship striker, but right now I'm not sure he is. But I say he is a handful. He's difficult, and it is a difficult one because they started so well. Speaking of difficult ones, I'm really interested in you've got for Swansea, because I looked through their squad and I eventually hit on something that I'm not massively happy with, but I'm going to go with anyway.
I think it's an obvious one for Swansea.
You do?
I went for Adam Eder.
See, yeah.
So he's basically he's been an impact sub so far, but without the impact, in my opinion. He's just struggled to kick on. His time at Celtic wasn't the most successful, but you'd think that he'd be able to come back and perform to an extent at championship level, and it's just not really happened for him so far. There's just very little about his game which excites me, to be honest. Whether it's on the ball or it's off the ball movement, actual goal scoring ability, he hasn't really shown it so far at Swansea, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think everyone was kind of a bit baffled the amount of money they spent on him, and I kind of share that. I really struggled. I went with Jan Vopotnik. I know he scored a lot of goals this season, but I think he's a massive purple patch when you look at the goals he scored. He's massively overperforming his underlying numbers. He also is really bad in the press. He just doesn't press at all, which most of the time is fine, but it does depend on your team, and that is some of it will be the fact that Swansea probably don't press that high. But in the sort of modern game, everyone wants to press. It seems like, and he doesn't do that. He does score goals, but he doesn't. I think he'll tail off. Similar to McBurney, I think he'll tail off quite a bit, and I don't think he's that good with his link-up play. He's a poacher who at the moment is scoring goals, but if you look over his career, he doesn't score that many goals. This is a purple patch for him. There's a reason they spent that money on Ida. Whatever you think of him, there's a reason they wanted another striker. So it's kind of a difficult choice, but I went with Vopotnik.
Do you think the tide will turn eventually and they'll turn to Ida to lead the line from the off?
I think if you spend that much money, you have to.
Yeah.
I think as soon as Vopotnik has 3 games in a row where he doesn't score, I think they'll put in Ida. You can't spend 7 million on a striker.
So the next game's going to be crucial for him.
Well, I mean, it might be after the international break they start either, because you don't spend 7 million on a striker to keep him on the bench. And although we have been starting Kyogo on the bench a lot. Only 3 teams left by my reckoning. We'll go on to Watford, who obviously this week sacked their manager again. Their squad is such a strange mix of players.
I was looking through it, and I had some sort of like, my head started hurting. I had a bit of a headache. just trying to dissect it all, to be honest.
Yeah.
It is just a little bit bizarre, to be honest. But for my choice, Musa Sissoko, it's just not worked out for him so far this season.
Yeah.
It's just one of them ways. Again, he's got, previous quality. Obviously, he's getting on a bit now. He's, he used to be getting called up for France and all sorts. He was obviously in the Premier League and getting a big bolster signing, a bolster move to Spurs. Obviously, that was quite a while ago now, but he just can't really keep up with Championship football now, unfortunately. Hopefully, he can sort of turn it around under Gracia, but so far this season, there's been no signs at all that he can do much at all.
I genuinely assumed it was a different Musa Sissoko. I didn't realize it was the same. It wasn't until I saw him. It wasn't until I saw him and I was like, "Oh no, that actually is Musa Sissoko." Yeah. I went with, again, maybe slightly controversial, Iran Kunda, because I find him, like, he's got obvious quality. He does. Like, he will be a good player, but somebody needs to teach him to not shoot every time he gets the ball. He shoots from anywhere, and it's so frustrating to watch. Like, I understand that you can score from there, but you're not going to do it consistently. Just sometimes just play that simple path. It really annoys me when I see a player who shoots. Like, he's got more shots from outside the box than inside, which as a forward player, I know it's easier to shoot from outside the box, but you have to have some discipline and not just shoot from outside the box. And that's always frustrated me. Like, Memphis Depay used to do this, and there's the reason. Like, when he was at Man United, didn't work because he just shoots from anywhere. Like, you can't just shoot from anywhere. It's such a waste of possession. That's why I went with him. But like, he obviously will be a quality footballer. It's just at the moment I find him very frustrating, and I think it can make your attack feel really like stodgy and slow because you're just constantly giving the ball away from shooting from distance and from weird angles.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of them things where I imagine Watford fans will be hoping that change of direction with the manager. Hopefully, he can grow out of that as well.
Oh yeah, like, I've no doubt he will be good, but right now it's kind of annoying. West Brom, you told me off air you were really struggling with West Brom.
I think.
Who did you eventually land on?
I landed on, and I'm not 100% confident, if I'm going to be brutally honest. I've landed on Josh Maja, who he's not really played that much at all, to be honest. But like, I expect a lot more from him, to be honest. I felt like, not necessarily that he's going to be leading the line week in, week out, but he'd just have a little bit more to show, a little bit more to prove. You'd think he'd have a bit more of a significant impact at Championship level, but yeah, just very little from him, to be honest.
I considered it, but he was good last season. I'm sort of his injuries do make him a worse footballer in the sense that, like they say, like the best ability is availability. Yeah. But I went with Jed Wallace.
Okay,
like Jed Wallace, he's had this reputation for a long time as like this top end Championship footballer, and there's a reason he has been at the Championship this whole time, and he's rarely. Actually, like he's never really got out of the Championship. Like, he takes a lovely free kick. He really does. And you watch him and you're impressed with the things he does, but it's another one of those where he sort of flatters to deceive a little bit. I think West Brom fans are pretty split on him, actually, but I think the outside West Brom Championship, like, everyone seems to rate Jed Wallace, and I've always just found him to be an okay Championship footballer. Like, he's maybe a good Championship footballer, but he's no more than that, and he seems to have this sort of like weird reputation as more than that, which I've always found a little strange.
Yeah, I feel like you get that with quite a lot of the West Brom squad, to the point where it's just quite a bit of a difficult one to really call. in comparison to West Brom, I feel like I had a clear option to go for Wrexham. I'd like to say as well,
Interesting.
we've not agreed with a single player so far.
There's been somewhere you've said it, and I've gone, okay, yeah, no, that's completely fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we haven't actually had the
I
same
mean,
name written down at any
yeah, I feel like you might have one of the two that I thought of, but I want to sort of go for one. I'll let you know my sort of second option as well.
All right.
So Nathan Broadhead, I think the most overrated for Wrexham. For the price he arrived for, you would expect a top level Championship player, and he is decent in the Championship, but he's not really. He's been overshadowed by several Wrexham signings so far, in my opinion. Kiefer Moore, Issa Kabore, Lewis O'Brien, even Danny Ward's when he was fit as well. I think they've all outshone him so far, and he's came on a little bit in the last couple of games, but again, I think both Windass and Kiefer Moore are much better options than him in attack. And obviously, Kiefer Moore was substantially less in terms of the transfer fee he arrived for, and Josh Windass arrived on a free. So when you look at how much Wrexham have truly spent on him, I feel like that really does play into it. Another option I had was Ryan Hardy, actually.
Okay.
He's just not kicked on whatsoever. And he's almost fourth or fifth choice. So Wrexham now is just not worked out already for him.
Wrexham always sign a ton of strikers. Like in League One, they had like 7. I actually didn't go for a forward player. I did consider Broadhead just because that fee was ludicrous. But I think everyone outside of Wrexham knows that fee was ludicrous. I went with Connor Cody.
Okay, right. Okay,
he's so slow. Like, he's really, really quite slow. Like, and I don't mean slow for the Premier League. I mean he's slow for the Championship. Wrexham cause a lot of problems going forward. Yeah, Wrexham cause a lot of problems going forward, but they cause themselves a lot of problems at the back. And Connor Cody is like a very specific player where he can only really play in the middle of a 3 at the back. And for some reason, like at one point, he was revered for this in the Premier League, and that quickly died down. And it's like he is slow and he's short, and he is not a Championship defender because, like, even like some of the stroke, like when I've talked about Richard Cody, oh yeah, he's not quicker and stronger than Championship. He's quicker and stronger than Connor Cody. I can tell you that much. he will throw Connor Cody around. Most strikers in the division.
Well, he did. To be fair, he did.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'd forgotten that, but yeah, no, he did, and he will do it again. Connor Cody he's a short and slow defender in a league full of big, powerful centre forwards, and he comes with this reputation because he played for England once, and it's like, yeah, but he's not it. He's not at this level anymore.
He's one of the players who shouldn't really be miles past his best as well. He's only 32 years old.
Yeah, no, he feels older than that.
At the top of his game.
He feels older than that because he's just so, I don't know, like Wrexham have problems defensively. Teams get behind them too much, and he's a big part of that.
Yeah, they do constantly have just all sorts of gaps in defence, and he's often like rushing out to get the ball and stuff, and he's just left in no man's land. And he realised, oh bloody hell, I'm Connor Cody. I can't get back.
Yeah,
and then it just leaves all sorts of havoc.
Yeah, he's just not. I don't know. He should be a Premier League player dropping down to the Championship, and he doesn't feel like it.
No,
that does conclude all 24 teams, which we've managed to do in an hour and 20 minutes. Which give ourselves a pat on the back. How about you? I'm pretty out of breath. Pretty pretty. My mouth's pretty dry. I mean, this is international weekend content for you. We'll be back next week with preview and review. Not next week with a review, obviously. We'll be back next week with a preview on the Thursday. We'll have some other content, I imagine, in the week. I'm not sure yet. I've been Elliott. There's been Lewis. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you very, very soon. So I can press the end recording button.